Hi everyone, welcome. It's Katie, and this is Books Live with Katie. Now I'm going to give two warnings before I get started. There is work going on outside the library, and you can probably hear it. I'm going to apologize. They are scraping the outside of the building right there, and they are mowing the lawn. So I'm going to do my best to not get distracted by this, and I hope you can all forgive me for not realizing this was happening when I scheduled this. And I will apologize again. Like literally, I am in the children's room, so on the second floor, and he is right outside that window to my right. And I have a feeling he's going to be working around the window as I'm doing this. So again, it's live, so who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, they are cleaning the facade of our building and doing some improvements. So spring cleaning for the library. Okay, so you're not here to listen to me talk about what's going on around the building. You're here to listen to me talk about books. Like I said, I'm Katie. I'm one of the librarians here at the West Allis Public Library. And today I'm going to be sharing about our May Mental Health Community Read Program. I'm going to share the book we're reading, a couple related books, and then give some suggestions for books you can read or might be interested dealing with addiction, mental health, as well as stress relief and anxiety, etc. May is Mental Health Month, and we use Mental Health Month in May to raise awareness for mental health issues as well as just mental health issues and the people that might be affected by it. I know with 2020 and 2021 going the way they have, a lot more awareness has been raised for people that are dealing with things like depression, anxiety, isolation, but there are a whole spectrum of mental health issues as well as conditions, and people shouldn't be living in fear of sharing those or needing help or assistance. And by celebrating Mental Health Month, we really draw attention to these issues and we raise awareness. In 2015, the West Allis Mental Health and Substance Abuse Task Force was formed to raise awareness in the community for these issues. The library was brought in a few years later to do this community read program. And the idea is people in our community are affected by mental health issues, substance abuse, and when they go untreated or undiagnosed, that's a problem. So when we raise awareness, then people know, wait, this is me. They see themselves, or they say, oh, this is happening to someone else. And then we can start to get the help we need and understand. A big part of this is to stop the stigma behind mental health issues that people might have, to raise awareness, and to get everyone kind of on the same page behind mental health issues. In 2019, which feels like 700 years ago, we did a community read surrounding the book It's Kind of a Funny Story by Ned Vizzini, which dealt with a young man with a little bit of suicidal thoughts who gets into a treatment program and then gets assistance for his depression and other mental health issues. For 2020, unfortunately, the program got canceled, but now going forward, we are going to do it as best we can with a lot of Zoom meetings. And the book we've chosen is Beautiful Boy by David Sheff. Now, this is a very powerful story about a father's experience with his son's addiction. And his son is addicted to methamphetamines. And what I am really picking up from this book right now is he's very much trying to report it in a way of this is what happened to us. It isn't reflective in the sense of, oh my gosh, I should have known at this point. It tells the story of his family. And what you really see is that it's a typical family. There is, yes, there's a little bit of drama, but there isn't anything where you're like, oh, that's where he fell for the cracks. Or, oh yeah, being raised like this, of course he had issues. There's none of that. It's just a normal kid growing up who's smart and clever and funny, who at a young age gets addicted to methamphetamines. It really brings a lot of those issues to the surface about addiction. And what's really interesting is because Dave Sheff is a journalist, again, it's from a very journalistic point of view. There's tons of other articles you can read about both before this book was published and after this book was published that deal with his son's addiction and the community response, as well as an outpouring of support people did have. So this is our community read title. If you are interested in discussing this with us, we have two events that you can come and discuss at. One is on May 11th and one is on May 20th at 6:30 p.m. They will be on Zoom. You can register through the library's calendar. And we will have, I'm going to get hopefully her title right. We will have a psychotherapist who is has a background in addiction and mental health issues for questions relating to that, as well as a librarian who was there for the book reasons. But it's just a way to discuss the book. We have titles available at the library. The Rotary generously donated titles to us, and this is my personal copy, but I don't want to give my next title away, so I'm going to be sneaky about this. So look, the library we're putting out quite a few copies every day. Other places around town, look in little free libraries. And of course, I'm not going to be able to find it in this one quickly. But on the books that were donated, here we go, by the Rotary, there is a sticker. Thanks to the Rotary for donating to us. So look for that sticker, look for these books at the library, and we'll be talking about Beautiful Boy in the discussion. And again, there's 2 dates. I will put the links when I post this to Facebook, as well as updated on YouTube as well. But they're on the library's calendar, so if you can get there, you can register and look for the free copies. There are also copies for checkout in both our Popular Picks collection. You can place a hold on it. It is available in Libby as an ebook and an e-audio. I'm listening to it right now because I listened to it when it first came out, however many years ago. So again, you can listen to it, you can read it. It's also in Hoopla as an audiobook. So if you use Hoopla, that means no wait list. You can just check it out and listen to it. So Beautiful Boy is our title. Now, another reason we picked this one is this is the family story. So this talks about the father and the other people and how they were affected by Nic's addiction. At about the same time, Nic wrote the story from his point of view in the book Tweak. And it's his story about growing up on methamphetamines. It's his story, his journey through addiction. This book, I'm not going to lie, Beautiful Boy isn't an uplifting book in the sense that it's a great, happy story, but this book is dark. It really goes through where he was as an addict and how far he fell. So as these 2 books are read together, you get both the addict's point of view as well as the family's point of view. And not to say that one story is better than the other, but again, this one was published more for teens, so if you have a teen in your life, this might be the better option. It's a little bit easier to read. I guess the way I'll say it is, David is clearly a journalist. Everything is written from a very factual journalistic standpoint, and this is a little bit more of a memoir, and it feels a lot more emotional. They're both emotional. They're both very good books, but Tweak is a little bit more of the darker personal experience story. So both of these books are available. We don't have as many copies of Tweak available because Beautiful Boy is a discussion book, but Tweak was also written, and again, it's 2 sides of the same coin. And again, there is a movie that's based on both of them. It is, as far as I can tell, only available on Amazon Prime, starring Steve Carell and Timothée Chalamet. So again, there's a movie that you can watch that takes experiences from both books. Wrong book. There's the cover for the movie for this one. What, again, I really like about them is it's 2 sides of the same coin. And you get to read the stories and figure out how they fit together, see how it impacts not only the individual, but the family as well. They did write another book together, and I'm sure there are other books, but this came out last year, and it is called the glare from the ring light, sorry about that. Everything You Want to Know About Drugs, Alcohol, and Addiction. Now, when I talked about Beautiful Boy, one of the things to keep in mind is that it is definitely reported very neutrally. There's no, oh my God, this is where it went wrong, and oh, if we would have interviewed here, we could have fixed it. The book doesn't do that, at least in my rereading so far. And I think he does talk about in the beginning that he doesn't want to do that. He just wants to tell the story. This book takes a little bit more of that introspective, like, ooh, and it is by both of them. So you get, ooh, if I would have intervened here or known this therapy would have worked better for you, yeah, that could have helped us earlier. Or even Nic saying, I wish I would have known to ask for help at these points because, I just didn't know how. And I know this one for sure. I'm not too sure about the other ones because, like I said, I read them when they first came out, and that was a long time ago, and I'm just in my reread now. What's great about these is they talk about how he did use drugs and alcohol to mask mental health issues, which is just something I don't think we talk about, that a lot of addiction deals with people that are self-medicating for issues that they could get help for. So again, why we're reading and discussing this is to bring those issues to light. And I think, I'm saying that now, but I'm just reading all these books recently. So I'm like, yeah, of course, people use other substances, whether legal or prescribed, to mask things that they don't know how to deal with or to bring the words to. So Mental Health Month really is bringing awareness to the issues around mental health and how we can move forward, how we can find help. This is a nice little short book, and again, it's very much a summary. I think the other two books are more powerful, but again, for maybe a younger teen, again, it does deal with a lot of dark stuff about addiction. So again, that's your comfort level, but this is kind of, I jokingly called it the Cliff Notes version because it is that perspective of, oh, this happened and this is what we wish we would have done. So yeah, those are the three books that deal with the same story and give a lot of the same facts. So reading them right after the other might be like, this is a lot of the same thing, but these are the books that we're using kind of to base the community reads on. And of course, there's a couple things I realized. These books are dark. They deal with addiction. They deal with that falling into those patterns. And they're great discussion starters because they do bring a lot of these issues. And I know one of the things that as part of the mental task force we talked about is how can you present something so that people know this isn't just an issue that affects one kind of family. It's in our community. It's in the homes that we may not expect. So those are really things that I like that these books bring up. Like, what do you have? Why? Again, when you can see the cracks in the society or the home, you're like, oh yeah, of course it's going to happen there. But these are homes where you'd think, he's very supportive parents. Yes, there was divorce and some other issues, but it seemed very happy overall. So now I'm going to talk about some other books. Again, I personally, especially with the pandemic and everything, enjoy reading lighter books. So there are a ton of books that deal with mental health issues with humor. And of course, the first author I thought about is Jenny Lawson, also known as the Bloggess, and she has quite a few books out right now. And this is her newest one called Broken. In the best possible way. I have not read this yet, but I have read her Let's Pretend This Never Happened and Furiously Happy. Both deal with her struggles with depression and other mental illness and how she deals with it. But again, it's with humor, and these books tend to be kind of, they're fun, they're a little bit lighter, but they do deal with a lot of the issues that people who have mental illness deal with. And whether it's seeing therapists, being in the hospital, taking medication. She's a great follow on social media. She's just funny, and she owns a bookstore now, I believe, somewhere in Texas. So again, it's fun as mental illness can be. She's definitely an author. If you are looking for something a little lighter, you can read her books. This is the newest one. I'm hoping to read it once I finish Beautiful Boy. The other author I thought of for humorous mental health was Allie Brosh. Her first book, again, is a little bit older. It's called Hyperbole and a Half, and it is kind of how she deals with things. This book really portrays depression in one of the best ways I've ever read because she uses illustration in these very simple ones, and she uses very simple language, but it's also very powerful. She has a new book out as well called Solutions and Other Problems. I will be honest with that one. I had to stop about halfway through because it got a lot darker than I could handle, and I do look forward to finishing it later. But Allie Brosh, again, these books deal with mental health issues in a way that's funny, but she has other observations as well about life, and I love her two dogs that she talks about in this book. She also is the one that did the Allot. Oh, and All the Cake, All the Things. She's the one that did that. So these books are they're fun, they're funny, but they do deal with mental health in a very light way. One thing that I believe Dave Sheff talks about in Beautiful Boy, but I can't find the exact citation because, again, I'm listening to it, is how a lot of times, especially in classes in school, we get don't do drugs, usually from a celebrity or an athlete, but it kind of sends a mixed message because we hear the, ooh, drugs are bad, but then we see this glamorous lifestyle. So while there are tons of celebrity memoirs that deal with drugs, addiction, and mental health or mental illness, I didn't want to highlight too many of them, but I will talk about two. One, because it's probably one of the more popular ones, and that is the Heroin Diaries by Nikki Sixx. This is, I believe, the anniversary edition, 10-year anniversary edition. You may remember Nikki Sixx as one of the co-founders of Motley Crue, and he really honestly talks about his struggles with heroin as well as getting clean. And I know this one also has kind of an additional chapter on his life now that he has been clean. Again, I'm sure you can look through our music biographies and just pull pull books off the shelf. Even thinking of some of the artists that show up in Beautiful Boy, Kurt Cobain comes up a lot. And again, talking about issues with mental health and addiction. Again, there's a lot of musicians, actors, comedians, performers that we can definitely point to. Their biographies really deal with them quite honestly, and we have tons of books like this. Nikki Sixx's The Heroin Diaries is probably one of the more popular ones. This one isn't necessarily the same level of deep in darkness, but I want to talk about it because I read it last year and I think it really handles seeking out help for mental issues, even if you're not in the pits of despair and addiction. And that's Chelsea Handler's Life Will Be the Death with Me. You may know Chelsea Handler is the comedian. She does a couple other things as well. And what I liked about this book is she talks about how she notices some flaws in herself and then goes out and seeks therapy to understand herself better and her past and to see how she can improve. Again, it's probably not someone who was in the depths of addiction, but she noticed some flaws in herself that she wanted to work on, and she did work on them, and she's trying to get better. And I think for a lot of this is slightly more relatable than the dark addiction at the pits, the bottom that we think of. But this is probably a little bit more relatable. Again, I will put the warning that she does do some substances to mask the feelings, and she doesn't deal with that from an addiction point of view. So if that is a concern, because that is what our community read is about, I won't recommend this. But again, if you're just looking for someone who sees issues in her own life that wants to improve, Chelsea Handler's Life Will Be the Death of Me is a great read. I listened to it. It was available in Libby. It was a great book to listen to while walking. So that's my recommendation there. Now, I get it. Not all of us are reading right now. I'm not reading as much as I want. So I have two non-book suggestions. Sorry, I'm flipping my notes. The first one is a TikTok account that my sister introduced me to. So Jenny, if you're watching, thank you. Domestic Blisters is, I believe, what her handle is. And it's this woman who looks at care tasks and talks about building your life in a way that works for you, so that if you need a clean kitchen to function, but you don't have the energy at the end of the night, how to set yourself up for success. And what's great is she does look at everything from a really loving way, and it's presented in a way that people who maybe suffer from things like depression, anxiety, ADHD can go forward and be like, oh yeah, this works. And a lot of it is not doing what the world expects us to do, but doing what works for us. I find her TikToks very encouraging and uplifting. She has written a book about cleaning that I believe is available on Amazon, and I just find her to be just a joy to watch. Again, finding those little things that you enjoy that maybe just bring a break to your day. It's great for your mental health, and to know that you're not alone, and sometimes these self-care tasks are really hard, but you deserve those nice things, and that's what she talks about. My last recommendation is going to be a podcast. Now, Busy Phillips is Doing Her Best is a fun podcast to listen to. And she started it last year about the time I read her book. And what I love about it is, again, every week she brings on guests and co-hosts and talks about what are you doing your best at. So it's really reframing and taking kind of a world that can be defined by bad events or things that aren't going great and putting a spin on it. Again, this isn't going to work for everyone, but if you are in just a mental funk, listening to funny people talk about doing their best. My only thing is it is a long podcast. They can go like 2-3 hours. So if you do listen to it, you can do it in a couple days. I am going to highly recommend the March 24th episode, where her guest is Dr. Harold Kopowitz of the Child Mind Institute. He was fabulous, talking about brain development and kids and how kids are facing so much different stuff today, and talking about having child therapists available, which I think really speaks to our mental health and how we want to move forward there. So again, I highly recommend listening to that episode of the podcast. But he also has a book called The Scaffold Effect, Raising Resilient, Self-Reliant, and Secure Kids in the Age of Anxiety. And that's Dr. Harold Kopowitz. I hope I'm saying it right. But again, I will put the titles of the books at the very least on our blog, if not in the YouTube video as well. And what's just great is he's an advocate for kids and getting kids into the help they might need so that they can become amazing functional adults. And I'm going to tie this all back to the books now, because that's one thing even Nick talks about. Like, if I would have known how to ask for help earlier, that would have been great. So I've talked about a lot and I've been talking for 20 minutes. So I am going to stop there and I will put this out here before I end. One, the library has tons of books dealing with mental health issues, from self-help books. If you are just looking to lighten the load a little bit, lots of books with tips for that. I didn't talk about it, but there's a whole series for teens, and this is just one. This is a stress survival guide for teens. There's a whole series of these books which are made for teens that talk about mental health issues and what they can coping skills. So these would be great to check out for a teenager or an adult. I'm looking forward to reading to it as well as personal narratives, as well as more medical facts if you're interested in that. And of course, we have books that deal on everything from anxiety and depression to higher brain, schizophrenia. There's fiction I haven't even touched on. So there's so many resources in the library to raise light and awareness of mental health issues. I will list the books I talked about here, but stop in and let's start a community conversation on mental health and some of the issues people might be starting. Again, if you want to join our mental health community events, we have a bunch of them. The 2 book discussions, again, May 11th and May 20th. There should be other events throughout the community as well. And starting May 11th, we're going to have some mental health craft breaks in the library, and we'll get more information on Facebook soon. Thank you everyone for joining me today. I hope you found something new to read or a way to cope, and I will be back on May 26th to talk about summer reading. Thanks everyone. Bye.